Hey, it's Mike with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Tuesday. It's April 3rd. This will be our chart listing for the day, and I would characterize this basically as a range day. We spent most of the day in this range, although we had a pretty good trend down, trend up, trend down, and we really went sideways after that until late in the afternoon. We had another nice rally here. So there's a lot of movement today, and honestly, we ended up closing up. Probably we closed up at 26.15 or so, and we opened yesterday at, or we closed yesterday rather, somewhere down here around 25.75. So, that's a 45 point move or so, and that's not insignificant. So, but still, we spent most of the trading day inside these levels. This basically the overnight low, and we actually broke a little bit. Our overnight high is right in here, and we broke above that, but we got back inside rather quickly. So that's the way I would characterize it, is mostly sideways because most of this action came late in the afternoon. But all the same, there's still a lot of opportunity. So I'm going to back out. We'll talk about the trades, show you what I saw, and we'll go from there. Okay, when I came in, prices were trading up here, and notice what we get. I really went back and forth about whether this should be green or not, but the trend line looks pretty valid, and I wasn't sure if this was where your upper part of your trend channel is or here. I originally was earlier playing it here, but even if you move it down to here, we still aren't there yet. So notice what we have. This swing low is lower than that one. There's actually a failed second entry short right here. Notice this new low and then the first entry, second entry. So if you were trading, that would have been the ideal place to enter. But notice there's a new low there, and then first entry short, second entry short. It's the first break of this little short-term trend line working up. We aren't back to the upper side either place yet, so we've got plenty of room to go higher here. And so I like that failed second entry long. There are three matching highs there, so it's a little bit risky. So again, I went back and forth about making this green or not because it is a little bit aggressive, but with there still being that much room between the high and possibly even this being the high, I felt like it was worth taking. When it didn't go any higher and then turned back down here, and then you had that little two bar matching high, really you've got almost a double top there. If I wasn't already in, normally I like to add in on that little jog back, but you can see that I wouldn't add back in there because now you've had your break and you've also got a new high and it's turning down. And it does go back up, but I wouldn't enter there just because of that two bar matching high, and then you had these three, because I really would have thought it would take on off there. And so this one's a little bit more questionable, and so you'll skip it, and then notice what happens. We turn down, we go up once, so you got a first entry, then you're heading down, you get that second entry. Notice how we pushed on through the EMA, broke outside this trend line right here, and pull back up, and it fails instantly. So I like going short there. You may not get anything more than a scalp because I'd be surprised if we don't test that high. But I still think it's, with that pattern having been so repeated so many times lately, I think it was worth taking. And so I like that one. And it's good for a scalp, maybe a little more, and then it bounces. So now we're headed to a new high. Notice we get one there. We pull back first entry. We don't make a newer high here, but we try to go lower again. So that's technically a failed second entry short. And so I like going long when it broke above that bar right there. Just looking for it to push up another leg. And you may get a measured leg like this one. Well, that wasn't a very good job of drawing a measured leg. It doesn't matter. We don't end up getting it. And you can see right there, that wasn't even enough. But we don't end up getting it, and it turns down. And generally, but now we've got a break outside this trend line, two legs up to a new high, and it looks like we're reversing, and we are reversing. And look what it does. It shoots right through the EMA, tries to go higher once, pulls back, tries to go higher twice, and it fails. I like going short right there. And if this bar wasn't so big, I'd say you could go short below it, but it's just too big. And since these are matching highs, you could go short right there, and that's where I would have went short. And that's a quick, easy scalp. Comes back here. There's actually two legs back here that this is like a hidden second entry, but that bar is relatively neutral. The stems on both sides. And notice it doesn't go very far before it comes back again and then gives you a big bearish bar with a lower high. So I like entering right there and then look how it takes off. Most of your smarter traders just probably weren't going to enter right there. They're going to wait on a better setup, and you get that right here and look at it go. You get another pullback to the trend line right here, relatively bearish bar, but we've been away from the EMA now for a little bit, although you may get another leg down like this one right here. And so, you know, you could probably argue for it to be green, but if you were smart and you entered here, you'd just be hanging on to a runner. And you can see we went a little further than a measured move, but it's just a first entry. But you're not going to probably get many second entries on that tight of a channel. You're just not going to get many because there's not a lot of room for a second entry. So anyway, you could probably argue for that one to at least be green. I didn't like marking it, and I'm still going to tell you I'm not crazy about it. But if you want to be aggressive, there it is. This one's too bullish to almost neutral. And then you do get a second entry short right here, but again, it's a very bullish bar. And then by the time this one ends, you're going short right into all those lows. So again, I'm not going to recommend that one. But notice you got your close outside now and a big move down, and watch what happens. First entry, you push on through the EMA, pull back. Second entry, it fails. There's that reversal pattern. I like going long there. Unfortunately, this shows you how efficient the ES is. You get a nice move up, easy scalp, plus a little, and then it comes back just enough to take out the break-even stops, and it takes off again. If you really wanted, the only reason I didn't mark this one, I like it, but again, there's a lot of resistance right across there, so I think you're better off to wait for a better entry. And notice what happens. It pushes up here, and it finally comes back to the EMA, or the trend line and the EMA, and then you get a higher low here, but that's the first close outside that trend line, so you might wait on that failed second entry short, which comes here. But now you got triple top here. 3 times you tried to go higher, but notice what happens. It pushes through there, pulls back, breaks lower again, then turns up. I like going long there. You're making higher lows there every time, and it's right off that key entry point. And you might argue to enter here just because there's not a lot of room. It is a second entry because we tried to go lower again there and then turned up. So you might enter on that one. I'll mark it green as well. But really, you need to wait on that reversal, which comes here. And I don't like it because it's now you've tried to go higher once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. But it breaks higher, turns back down again, and then goes back up. I would have liked it better if it went on out the other side, but it didn't. But still, you could go long there because we're probably going to push on up. You couldn't get outside. Prices could never close outside that trend line. So that's a good sign. And you're making higher lows there every time as well. So that's a really good sign. Then finally, you actually push through and you get an overshoot here, but look what happens. You come back first entry, pull back. You get a second entry long, a little higher low right off the trend line. You got to close outside that trend line. You didn't quite get a new low, but since it bounced off the trend line, that's a good reason why you're probably not. Although you did get an overshoot there, so I like entering there. And then it actually pushes up and turns down again. And even though that's not a failed second entry short, it's still the 3 tries to go lower and a relatively bullish bar. So I did give it green, although it is a perfect double top up there. So you got to be a little concerned about that, especially with that overshoot. But if you're wanting to be aggressive, you probably want to go long there. And that turns out to be one of the better trades because you would have got a runner off this one or this one, really. You wouldn't have got one here, but you would have got one here and here. And look at it go. And you don't want to be going short up here unless you get a reversal pattern. And look what happens. You get these big overshoots again, and it shoots down, pulls back on a first entry, goes right through the EMA, pulls back, fails a second time. So there's your failed second entry long, goes short right there. And then it comes back one more time. And I believe what's going on here is the trend line is just a little higher maybe. This one's a little questionable. I mean, there is a short-term trend line here, so you'd want to draw that, and you get your close outside right there at a new low. But I still wouldn't be looking to go long here until I got a higher low, and you never do get it. You actually get a double test here and turn down again. And so that's a big bearish bar. So that's really 2 legs back, and it's really a double test. I don't have a line across there, but that's a double test of that level. And you can see that, and a nice bearish bar. So I like going short there. And you don't know that it's going to do this. It could just be setting up on a little trading range there temporarily, but off it goes. And I would look for a minimum of a measured move similar to this. Of course, we end up getting a lot more here, but that would be my minimum I'd be looking for if we continue lower. And you can see we went a little bit further than that. And then you get 2 legs back. This one's really tempting, but your signal bar is terrible. Just not a very good signal bar. Even the next one still has some stem on it, and we're not back to the trend line yet. What looks to be the trend line if you draw it off those first 2 swings. And it does turn out this is the right trend line, but you can't be sure at this point. It's not really fitting on the other side unless you draw it down here. And that's probably right, and there's probably a midline in there, but I had it drawn up here at that point because it was looking like it was really accurate. But in the end, it's probably down here, and I'm guessing there's a midline. I never even went back to check it, but I'm sure it's there. Yeah, you can see that. That's what it looks like to me. Go ahead and put it on there. And we shoot on down, and like I said, we're working back on, you get the second entry short, but you don't get a very good signal bar, thank goodness. Well, I shouldn't say that, because if you'd have taken it, it would have worked. But at that point, I was looking at this like a possible overshoot, and when you come up short, you probably will want. Let me back up a second. When you get an overshoot, 2 things are going to happen. You're probably going to overshoot an equal distance, or you're going to come up short an equal distance. I think I had that right there originally. So it looks like we're coming up short about an equal distance right there, maybe a little less than equal distance. So if you got a really good signal bar, I probably would have said, hey, you might take that one. But under the circumstances, I think you were better off not to. And it ends up working, but sometimes that's going to happen. You're going to have some trades that go against you that you just have to watch them go. But look what happens. It comes back to the trend line. You get a first entry long. It pulls back again, tries to go higher again. You get a second entry long, and it turns and goes down. I'm not sure if this went higher first and then broke lower, or went lower first and turned higher. So if it went higher first, I wouldn't have a problem going short when it broke below there. But if it didn't, you'd have to go short when it broke below this one. And again, that's a fairly easy scalp. It's running down. You get another chance to go short right here, but it's a first entry, and it is right off the trend line. And I probably wouldn't have had a problem going short there, but when it made this next one too, and it's a little double bottom matching low, I'd probably wait on that to see what happens. I think it still would have worked. I think there's enough movement there that you still could have gotten out, so it would have worked, but I don't recommend it. Entry would have been 87.50, and yeah, you would have got out of that one with a tick or 2 to spare. So, but it does bounce. You don't get that failed second entry short here till here. And by that time, you've already had a close outside the new high, so I wouldn't be taking that one. You do get a failed second entry long here, but it's right into those lows. We're kind of going sideways here. I think it would have worked, but I don't recommend it. But now you're bouncing off this low again, and you can see this trading range by this time. It wasn't so sure when it went here, but when it bounced here 2 more times, gives you a bullish bar. I like going long. It doesn't get a whole lot. It gets enough to get out before it comes back, and then it bounces again. This time I'd definitely go long there and look at it go. And another reason I wouldn't go short here on this failed second entry long is because you've got a close outside, and all you got to do is make a new low, and to make a new low, it only goes right to what looks like support there. So, and you probably could argue for that to be even a little higher right there. And you see that it even looks better there because you get more touches and bounces right there. But generally I like to use the closes, and so I'll move it down as it changes, and in the end it fits better there. You get more touches and using the closes there. And this one turns out to be a really nice trade. If you just caught that one trade, there's a double test of this level. It's buying support of a strong trading range, strong support on a trading range. And you're really only looking for it to go back to test the highs, but this thing just shoots right on through. So I would hold on to it until you got a bar that broke outside that trend line. And that comes here. And so now you're working down. But notice what happens here. You got a new high, first entry long. You pull back. You get a second entry long. You've got a close outside and a new low. And you get a failed second entry long right at the support, at the resistance line of the trading range. So you would figure prices are going to head back. So I like going short there. That pattern's worked over and over. It does work, although it tries to go higher again, but you would expect prices to go to here. So again, at a minimum, I'd measure this leg, and when we started lower, I'd look for a possible measured move. And where does that put you? Right back down here. We end up going further than that, but doesn't matter. Notice that you're moving up. You get a close outside and a new high all in one. So I like going short right there. It's actually below that bar. That's not a great bar. So what you might let it do is take the next break lower. But so I would have liked this one better if it ticked higher here, but it didn't. So, but you could have argued to maybe enter there, but now you're right back into the support. You're right at the EMA. So if you didn't enter here, I'd probably skip that one. And it moves on down. You get a first entry long, pulls on back. You get a failed second entry long, and that's the first break of that trend channel. So we'll probably come back down and test this again. So, and that's a fairly bearish bar. So I like that one. However, we did just come off the low, so it's not an ideal setup. But because it's a trout, we'll probably push lower again, and there's probably a lot of people loading up down here trying to buy it blindly and things like that without waiting on a really good setup. And if you did sell this one, it pays off because it really shoots on down pretty quickly. And you actually get, if you measure that leg from there, and look here, you almost get a perfect measured move down there. So it missed it by a couple tick or two, but then it bounces. Of course, you got your close outside and the two legs, at least two tries to go lower. Now it's bouncing up the other way, but look what happens. First entry short, pushes on through, second entry short, and it closes just above that line. I like going long there. It's just enough to get out, and then it turns back down, and that's the danger of, maybe not waiting on seeing if you get a higher low after it breaks higher there. You really don't. You get a lower high, a little bit lower high here, and then this one's right back into that. So I don't really recommend going long right there. You do get a higher low here, but that bar's too bearish, and that one's too bullish. It's way too big. So, and then you get a little couple of matching highs right there, and so that's just too risky. And then that takes you into 2 o'clock hour. So there were plenty of trades not to be trying to get too cute today and trying to be too risky, especially late in the day. If you make a mistake early in the day, before 10 or noon, maybe even, you got time to make it back. But if you make a mistake this late in the day, most of the time you're stuck with it, and you're going to end up with a losing day. So that's why I'm more leery about taking a more aggressive trade in the late in the afternoon. Early in the morning, yeah, maybe, but definitely not late in the day because you just don't have time to make it back. So anyway, that's what I saw today. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm going to wrap it up. There's so many trades. It's taking 20 to 30 minutes to do these chart lessons. So I'm already 20 minutes into it. And I think I was 30 minutes the last 2 days. So plenty there to look at. Pretty good day. Not as easy as yesterday. If you don't know how to trade range days, it's a little more difficult. I like these kind of days. They're generally fairly predictable. You got to be patient, as we talked about yesterday. And you got to follow the price action, because when it bounced down here and starts heading up, you got to be thinking range day, but then it shoots right on through. So you don't know, hey, is this going to come back again? Generally those breakouts are going to fail, but you didn't have a whole lot of resistance to measure off of up here to say, hey, you've got really a lot of consistent resistance. Notice we're making higher highs here, so it's not real consistent. So when it pushes on through here, you don't know if it's going to come back or if it's going to continue higher. So you got to just use your trend line rules right here and watch for traps and be careful. And it does end up turning back down. And we just go sideways for a while. And this is a much tighter trading range, and you get a couple of breaks out each side before it turns up and goes higher and rallies on again. So not a bad day, but I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.